Item 10.1 is a report on 2016 crime rates from Chief Hahn. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and Council. There we go. Tonight I'm here to give you a report on how we did as a community in 2016 regarding crime and traffic within Roseville. And I think as you hear this tonight, I think we should all be very proud of ourselves as a community and how we did last year, because although there are still some challenges that you'll hear about, I think overall we did very well as a community in terms of keeping our high quality life and our community safe. So as you know, as our mission as a police department is to work with our neighborhoods and our business districts to improve the quality of life for everyone in Roseville. And the successes we'll talk about today are really the result of a partnership between all of us, the council, the police department, our community in general, many of the other departments within the city and outside of the city. As also you have heard of far too many times probably, is the criminal justice system has changed drastically over the last couple of years. Both AB 109, Prop 47, recent court decisions that we've probably talked about many times in front of this council. But it still remains that it's our job, regardless of what the system is to ensure that we have a high quality of life in Roseville. So what that has meant for the last couple of years is we need to change and modify how we do things in order to fit the current system and yet still continue to maintain a safe community. And so I think we've done very good at that as a community. So with that, next slide. The crime stats. So these are from 2016. There's a lot of things that are very good on here and some things that are still challenging to us. So we had 0 homicides in 2016. We had 0 homicides in 2015. The last time we've had a homicide in our city was 2014. We're one other city in our region that hasn't had a homicide last year. And this is going on our 3rd year. So that's, knock on wood, that's very good. The category of rape has gone up a little bit in our city, which is always troubling. But it's also important to note that we have one of the lowest numbers and rate of rapes in our city in this entire region. The next category, robbery, that's actually one that has been very challenging for us for the last couple of years. So if you remember 2015, our robberies went up 72%. So even though they went up last year 10%, they didn't go up 72%. So that's a good thing comparatively to 2015. But it's also a little misleading. So most of us think of robberies as getting robbed out on the street, but about 30% of our robberies are really shopliftings, where the loss prevention officer or security guard at the store went to stop the person on their way out and they struggled to get away. So technically, because there's force used, it turns into a robbery, but really the intent was a shoplifting. But yet, we are seeing some robberies that come along with bigger cities. For example, we had a robbery at a local fast food restaurant where the woman was in the drive-thru, and the suspect came up with a gun, pointed a gun at her head, and robbed her. Well, now he robbed her of her beach bag that was on the passenger seat that had a cell phone charger and some flip-flops in it. So he didn't get a whole lot, but the good thing to that story is, as typical of our community, witnesses helped us find him within probably 10 minutes, and he was arrested. So even though people can commit crime here, there's a very high likelihood they're going to get caught. Moving on, aggravated assaults went down pretty significantly last year, 36%. And those are, fighting, assaults, more with injuries are the aggravated assault. Total violent crime went down 15%. So as we've been seeing upticks in various cities around our country in crime the last couple of years, I think that's very significant that our total violent crime has gone down 15% last year alone. The next one is burglary. That's probably the most significant thing that I could say about our community last year is burglaries went down 24%. Last year they went up 4%, but you won't find any other city that went down 24% anywhere near here. And more importantly than that, we'll get to on the next slide, is the rate of burglaries. And so far this year, burglaries have continued to go down in the first couple months of this year. So that's probably the most significant thing, because with burglaries comes so many other things. Most people that commit burglaries have drug issues, and there's financial fraud and identity fraud that comes along with burglaries. So if those are going down, that's a very good sign for our community. Larcenies went up 5%. Those are shoplifting, things like that. Motor vehicle theft went up 7%. They went up 31% last year. Motor vehicle theft is a huge problem in our region. So we're still working on that. Last year we issued free clubs, because certain cars get stolen much more than others. And so we offered free clubs to attach to your steering wheel to the people that own those sort of cars. So I think that helped a little bit. Property crime went up 1%. Last year it went up 7%, so it's pretty even. So that's also a good sign.
Daniel, just a point of clarification. The vehicle theft, is that stealing the entire vehicle
Yes.
or breaking in?
Stealing the entire vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah, larceny would be the breaking into the cars. Probably more importantly, to compare ourselves to other cities is the crime rate that tells you how much crime per capita that you have. And so that's what this slide is. Again, I won't go over every single one on here, but again, the most significant one is burglary. We have the lowest burglary rate in our entire region. There's not a city in our region that has a lower burglary rate than us. The other thing is, last year, the number of burglaries we had in our city is the lowest we've ever had, at least as far back as we can track. So like in 1995, we had a lot more burglaries than we had last year, and there's about 56,000 people living here in 1995. And so that's very significant. We have the lowest burglary rate in the entire region, and we have the lowest total number of burglaries in the city of Roseville that we've had since we've been counting. So I think that, and I'll get into it in a little bit, I think that's a significant sign that our community works together to keep our community safe, and you'll hear more about that in a second. Next slide, please. Workload measures. I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. So these are kind of a lot of the things that are behind the scenes that people don't often think about in a police department and keeping a community safe. For example, the first one, our calls to 911, our 911 calls to our dispatch center went up 18% last year. So on one side, it's a heavier workload, but it also shows that our community is calling more. And so that's a good sign. Total calls received by our dispatch center went up 2%. Here's some of the other things that shows the kind of work that not only the community is doing, but members of our department are doing. Property room requests, that's usually a detective requesting to check out evidence out of property, like a cell phone to examine it, or the DA's office requesting evidence out of property for a court case. Those went up 9%. CSI requests, everybody knows what CSI is. They go out and do fingerprints and lift and find DNA and things like that. The requests for CSI in our city went up 31%, almost 300 additional calls for CSI this last year. And the list goes on and on and on. One thing that you wouldn't think about is sealing orders. So that's juveniles sealing their criminal records. There's been a big push, certain organizations, to inform juveniles how to seal their records so they can get jobs and things like that. Well, those requests to our records division handles that. Those went up 24% last year. So the workload goes up even on things that we don't really think about, but it's very important to our community. Next slide, please. So traffic. I'm sure none of the council has heard anything about traffic issues in our city ever. Quite the opposite, probably. So that is constantly a challenge in our city, and any city, is traffic. And so the one bit of good news on this whole slide is non-injury collisions in our city in 2016 went down 2%, and that's about where it ends. So personal injury went up 3%, hit and run collisions went up 6%, DUI collisions went up 41%. Part of the reason for that is because of staffing, we haven't been able to fill our DUI officer. That's what he or she does for their entire shift, is look for DUI drivers. So most of last year we did not have a DUI officer. So that could explain some of that increase in DUI collisions and the importance of concentrating on DUIs. But those went up 41%. Fatal collisions went from 2 to 7, 250% increase, and the grand total of collisions in our city went up 4%. Next slide, please. This is a graph, if you will. The red line shows the collisions throughout the year. The blue bars show how many traffic stops were were completed in our city in that year. And traffic stops don't necessarily mean citations. I'll get into that in a little bit. But traffic stops means just that, a traffic stop. Could result in a warning, could result in a citation, could result in an arrest. But as you notice, when the red bar goes up, meaning more collisions, the blue bars are down, meaning less traffic stops. When the blue bars go up, which means more traffic stops, the red bar comes down, meaning less collisions. So there's a almost every one of these months, you can see a pretty distinct correlation between the number of traffic stops and the less number of traffic collisions. And that's why we do traffic enforcement, is to make our streets safer. So just to give you an example of what traffic is in our city. So over the last 15 months, meaning from January of 2015 or 16 through March of this year, we had 2,181 collisions in our city. That breaks down to about 145 collisions a month and about 5 collisions per day. So that tells you what's going on in our streets. So in March of this year, we conducted 1,185 traffic stops, both our traffic officers and our patrol officers, compared to March of last year, where we did 863 traffic stops, which is a 37% increase. Now, part of that is because of staffing last year, we also didn't have a fully staffed traffic unit. We do now. Of those roughly 1,100 traffic stops in March of this year, 666 of those resulted in warnings, which means talking to the driver and not giving a citation. 422 of them were citations, and 42 resulted in an arrest, just to give you kind of an idea of how our traffic enforcement goes. So now I want to end with a little bit of what I think the reason is for a lot of these successes last year. And our community is a big part of that. So we have 16 active neighborhood associations in our city. They're extremely active. They get information out to each other. They look out for each other. And you'll hear a little bit more about what some of the things they do as I go along. We had 2 Citizens Academy where about 80 people altogether went through. They now go through scenarios. We changed the Citizens Academy, or we added to it, I should say, to where they actually go through scenarios now, where they do traffic stops. They do as if they were the officers. We put a belt on them and uniform type stuff, and they get to actually see how it is to handle a call, in addition to the normal classroom stuff that we've always done. We have police department volunteers. Today we honored the volunteers throughout the city. So last year we had we have 65 police volunteers that completed 12,965 hours of police work. And one of the things I shared today at the volunteer event is some of our volunteers patrol our neighborhoods in police cars. And the prior year, we had a large problem. About 30% of our residential burglaries were from people leaving their garage doors open or unlocked. And so we developed a flyer, and our volunteers went around, and whenever they saw an open garage door, they stopped. They made contact with the people at the house, handed them the flyer, and said, could you please close your garage door? We've been having a lot of garage door burglaries. Sometimes the neighbors would leave them open in the summertime, 4 feet high to let cool air come in. But believe it or not, criminals can scoot under that and steal your bikes and things in your garage. Some people left it open by accident. Some people weren't even home. They didn't realize their garage door was open. So in either case, we talked to the resident or closed their garage door. And a couple months after we started doing, and by the way, some of the neighborhoods did it too. So like Sun City has a patrol. They would hand out the flyer to their neighbors when they would be patrolling. About 2 months after we started that, we had 0 burglaries through open or garage doors. So that shows you the impact of what volunteers and community groups can do. In addition to arresting people, we can prevent them also. So the next one is drug take-back events. A lot of our crime is a direct correlation to drugs, and so these are mainly prescription drugs. So we took back 4,300 pounds of drugs last year in our drug take-back, which gets it out of the cupboard. So when your friends come over, when your kids' friends come over and they go use the restroom, they're not taking your prescription meds out of your cabinet because you've turned them in. NCORCA is a Northern California organized retail crime, so it's all the retail businesses in our region. And we get together a couple times a year and talk about the issues that are going on and how to prevent, and educational and to share information with each other. We had an open house at the police station. We have an interfaith task force, which is all the churches in our city where we come together. Believe it or not, there's crimes that happen in and around our churches, and so they share information. Crime labs are basically our businesses. When we have crime crews that basically prey on our region. We share that information, and we've actually caught a couple crews that, basically the ones that will go into Tiffany's or Louis Vuitton and clean out thousands and thousands of dollars and walk out the store. So there's several crews that go up and down the state and do that. As you have all heard, obviously in the past, is we created a social services unit, and that's basically to help families and kids and people with mental health issues and our homeless population and find long-term solutions for that. I think we've already seen many, many successes in our city of where, we see every night on the news where law enforcement and community and law enforcement and people in mental health crisis goes very badly. We've had several similar situations in our city where our officers have handled them to where they don't go badly. And you probably haven't heard of any of them because they didn't go badly. And so I think that's very much a success. And then the last slide is some of the way we communicate with our community, get information, and provide information. So as you all know, we have a Facebook page. On our Facebook page right now, we have over 22,500 followers. At the beginning of last year, we only had 9,000. So we had a 138% increase in the number of people that follow us on Facebook. Our Twitter page was very similar. We have over 6,000 followers now. We had only 3,800 at the beginning of the year, 54% increase. We have an e-Notify, like many other departments in the city, that provide information to our community on who's victimizing our community, what's going on. We even put community events on there. Well, we have over 6,600 followers, or subscribers, I should say, on that. And we had about a little over 5,000 at the beginning of the year, so another large increase. And then the last one I have on there is a very new thing we added. Our community can go to our website and sign up for that. So Keep Watch is a new program that we have where we can sign up people. There's many people in our community that now purchase security cameras for their homes. And so we want to know where those are. So if we have a crime in that neighborhood, we can then go contact that person and see if their camera captured anything that's useful for us to help solve that crime. We just started this maybe 3 weeks ago. We already have 138 people signed up for it. So anybody that wants to do that, that also helps with us keeping our neighborhood safe and solving things after they happen. So that's another thing that we now offer that's on our website now that they can go to and sign up. And then in closing, I want to just say it really is an overall community effort that allows us to do the things that we do in this community, some pretty amazing things that keeps us as one of the safest communities in the region, and with a high quality of life. And it's all of our successes. It's the entire community. It's this council, it's residents, it's businesses, it's police officers. We always say when we recruit, one, you have to have the opportunity to be able to follow up on crime and serve our community, but you also have to hire people that want to do that. And I think we have both in the city. You have provided us the staff, not that we will never say we don't need any more, but you provide us with the number of staff that gives us the opportunity to literally be able to do that. And we think we do very good at hiring people that are willing and want to do that. And so that, coupled with our community, we have been able to have these successes that you've seen here today. And we have some still challenges in the crime area, and we'll keep tackling those and doing what it takes to keep this community very high quality as we grow, which is a huge challenge, but I think this community is up to it. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Chief, thank you for a very good report.
You're welcome.
Any comments?
Yeah, Daniel, that's a great report and great ideas. I mean, the idea of finding out, which of our residents have cameras and having a registry so you can use those if need be is a great one. And just a question on the auto thefts. Is there an area that it happens more? I mean, is it the Galleria? Is it, is it just spread out all around the city?
It changes, but it's spread out all around the city, usually somewhere near thoroughfares. But yeah, it's pretty equal opportunity.
Okay.
Any other comments?
A question on the watch cameras. Is it just just you guys have access to that list?
Yes, we don't share it with anybody.
Good, okay.
We just, like, for example,
it
if we
wasn't a
went out
public
and had a
list.
burglary tonight in your neighborhood, the officer could pull up that map of where those cameras are, and if you're, like, on one of the thoroughfares, then they could call you and go, hey, could you take a look at your camera and see if you captured anything?
Just wouldn't want the bad guy pulling up a list
no,
and figuring out
no,
where to go.
No.
Okay, yeah.
The sign-up is public, meaning where to go to sign up, but the results are not. No.
Well, congratulations. Yes.
One thing I did notice, which is interesting, the effort that you had with the volunteers going out and informing people that their garage door is open, right? And then the number dropped off. And I remember a year ago, I read every week the updates that the police department sends out about what crimes occur in which communities and in which neighborhoods. And it was always somebody leaving open a garage door or something like that. And that really has disappeared. And as I reviewed the stats this last week, it was primarily people breaking into cars and checking the door handles and using that as an opportunity to break into cars. So it's interesting to see how that effort that those volunteers made has had a huge impact on the crime stats. And you can see that in the numbers that you provided, right? The larceny has gone up, the break-ins into homes has decreased. So it's great to see the work that our volunteers, our community members are doing, our residents are doing to point out crimes and challenges. We're really fortunate.
Yes, and many of those cars are also unlocked doors, so.
Yes, they are. They're the unlocked ones because you see people on those videos checking door handles.
If you
In
can
my
leave it unlocked,
neighborhood, we
don't
had
leave
that
anything in
happen.
it.
Yeah, if you're gonna leave it unlocked, yes, don't leave anything in it.
Because they won't break the
and
window.
we have a good and a bad problem here in Roseville. So a lot of the people we talk to that have been victimized, they say, yeah, they knowingly left their house door or their car door unlocked because they live in Roseville and Roseville's safe. So it's great that that's the feeling we all have, and to a large extent that's true, but nowhere is safe enough to just leave your stuff unlocked all over the place. So it's a good and bad problem. So we would prefer people lock their doors.
If there's no other comments, congratulations to you and your department for a very good report. Thank you.